Hey guys, Matt. I'll get to chapter 27 in just a moment. We're still in this massive front section of the book, introducing to anybody outside the old guard that the entire world as it's presented to us is a gigantic fraud with overwhelming evidence. This is like a lead in to the heart of this whole section coming up in one or two chapters, the What Are the Chances section. Probably two chapters. It's just a monstrous list. What are the chances this could happen if this world is real? What are the chances this could happen? What are the chances? It just goes and it's kind of like, what's your threshold? Do your probabilities. And it just is overwhelming list that I will present probably in two chapters. A little bit of a lead in. We are still in the heart of the bad news. Cannot deliver good news or make the turn until we hit rock bottom. Chapter 27, I've written here, Insanity section, Glitches in Reality. Remember in the Matrix movie it was said that getting a feeling of deja vu was just like a glitch in the Matrix? Why was that part of the movie so interesting to all of us? Why did it resonate with most of us when we saw that cat in the movie pass by twice? When that happens, it means your inner knowing, your inner tuning fork is tapped, and there's a reason you sit up and freeze your handful of popcorn. The examples presented in this section break down reality itself and are magnitudes more mind-blowing than thinking you just saw the same black cat twice. This is going into the heart of the book. It's a massive collection of reality oddities. This book is written starting in 2018 through 2019. There are now hundreds of examples that perhaps can only be explained if we live in some sort of weird reality script. I have no other way to put it. That doesn't mean to imply we're all bound by fate. The idiocracy we now call the world around us can be freely interacted with, I believe, by soulful beings who reside here, and the script can be broken by some. However, there is no doubt this reality wants us operating through the script, not changing our lines. In a way, our reality is like a fast food chain. It won't let most people order off the menu. It doesn't do special a la carte orders. It won't let you have breakfast at 11:01 a.m. Then you should be Michael Douglas in the movie Falling Down, but find a way to be more constructive than he was. In the movie, he reached into a bag, pulled out some sort of machine gun, and shot up the entire restaurant because he couldn't get his breakfast at 11:01 a.m. First hour of Falling Down is a very interesting movie, and then it gets a little bit weird. The American solar eclipse of 2017 reinforced to me that we likely live in some sort of scripted reality or even a simulation. Whether you call it impossible coincidence or a glitch in the matrix, what happens in a solar eclipse is so impossible, for lack of better words, so impossible, it shocks many people into questioning everything they know. Most people have been habituated to it and blow off the eclipses, and no big deal. Before starting this section, I want to address a question you may be crafting. It's a common question posed by people who desperately want to hold on to their established worldview. It's an attempt to discredit people like me, speaking very uncomfortable things. Here it is. Hey, Mr. Author, if what you're saying is true, then everyone would be talking about all the things that you're talking about in this book. All of it would be on the news, and all of it would be covered. These things would be the biggest story of all time. Nobody's talking about what you're talking about. Yeah, that's exactly my point. Because all of the next 100 pages is pretty much proven to be totally 100% true. Few things we could argue about. The fact that you've never heard about any of this on the news or from any established media proves you live in a controlled reality and a faux construct. It proves you don't get all the information. Call society what you want, a Club Med for free-range slaves. The first step is seeing how poisonous the news is in our societal construct. This question is logical to people who have false assumptions about how the world really works. It's a rational question if the news is what you're told it is. I can't take 500 pages right now, and I'd need all of it to explain in detail why authority figures or people on the news don't talk about anything in the next section. Well, that and everything I've presented thus far also. No one authority, nobody, through mainstream media, has even questioned the ridiculous Lee Harvey Oswald story they present on the news, let alone the concept of time itself. Not only has the news never mentioned anything I'm about to cover in the next 100 pages, about 90% of the population has not even heard a bit about most of what follows. Nothing in the next section is a stretch of the truth. It's not statistics, which can be used to lie about absolutely anything. If you've looked for a job between 2014 and 2018, you know the unemployment rate is not just under 5% like they tell you, a number approaching full employment. The job stats are completely manipulated. Statistics can be twisted to demonstrate almost anything. Statistics can be manipulated to prove your grandmother just conquered Europe. No doubt, one of our biggest frustrations is everyone should be talking about what's basically on every page of this book. And nobody's talking about it. Nobody in the mainstream ever goes there. Nobody ever mentions it. In fact, it's the opposite. They don't just not talk about it. They go out of their way to attack our side and censor our speech. This is entirely what the fake news mantra is all about. It's an excuse to shut me and you up. When they can't censor, they belittle. Those talking about the stuff in this book are mocked as conspiracy theorists, and that is what gives the so-called authorities away as unfair actors in our reality play. If all of this is just the harmless banter of madmen, then why such a massive effort to belittle and shut down these types of thoughts? Why has YouTube and Facebook deleted hundreds of leading conspiracy channels or thousands of videos collectively? Now with recent news events, there's a massive push to control live streams. There'll need to be a delay. People won't be allowed to just go live. That could put information out that's dangerous, fake news, or something could be broadcast that would harm children. What do they have to fear if we're all just nuts? None of the alien baby videos have been deleted by YouTube, only videos that try to expose the system itself. If there's no truth to it, why shut it down? In summary, there is a reason the concepts in this book are not discussed in the mainstream. Don't look to society to tell you how to react to the questions posed in the upcoming sections. If you're shocked by something presented here, don't look to the masses and the asses to interpret how to think about it. If you side with this author or the group of crazies that hang out on channels like this, with anything, if you side with us on anything, you'll be ridiculed for doing it to no end. And I am passing the word to people going away from the book for a second. Never discuss these topics inside of your structured work environment. Never. Especially if you're in a school or university or hospital or government, a massive structured environment. Never ever go there. This is for your personal time only if you want to keep your job. Trust me, the matrix will flush you if you make these things known. We do this on our own time. I'm just doing that because I care about you and you keeping your job. This is the nature of society and the script it's running. Be confident enough to think through these matters on your own. Now, back to the eclipse. When you look up and see the moon fit perfectly over the sun, know the chances of that happening are 1 in billions at best, if what's happening is as it's described. Again, the big deal here is how the moon fits perfectly over the sun, as perfect as laying one quarter atop another, milled from the same machine. I contend in a physical reality, considering all the variables of 3 separate bodies millions of miles away from each other, incredible magnitudes of size difference between the bodies moving in different directions, the solar eclipse is impossible. Yes, impossible. If it was not an exact fit, this argument would lose all steam. For example, if something that looked like a dime passed in front of something that looked like a quarter, I would not have enough here to convince anybody that something else is going on in reality itself when we see an eclipse. You all know this, but we're going to cover the basics. The moon is 400 times smaller than the sun, so they say, 400 times. But in the largest coincidence in the known universe, it's exactly 400 times closer to the Earth at the exact moment of the solar eclipse. One just cancels the other variable out and voila, they appear to be the exact same size from your perspective on Earth. Let's get a cameo from the prosecuting attorney and My Cousin Vinny. They're identical. Now, please don't trivialize what was just said like it's as easy as moving a tennis ball forward with your arm to eventually cover a light bulb on the other side of the room from your eye's perspective. We're told 64 million moons can fit inside the sun. Not 64 moons, 64 million. That's what I found in my research. Like a ping pong ball inside the Empire State Building, a hollowed out Empire State Building. Just throw 64 million in there. And remember, the phenomenon does not only concern two bodies, the moon and the sun by themselves. This spectacle requires a third variable, your perspective on Earth. Any mathematician will tell you that you add three variables into a math equation and you don't know any of them, it's like impossible to solve. This third variable introduced, you standing on Earth, pushes the quote coincidence to an astronomical improbability because we're supposed to be also moving thousands of miles an hour in a different direction. Please understand there is only an eclipse for those standing on Earth. If you're anywhere else in the universe, there's nothing going on between the sun and the moon at all. Nothing to see. Matt Damon standing on Mars sees nothing while pooping on his potatoes to stay alive. I use the word astronomical, but I don't know what word to use to convey how improbable the solar eclipse is. Improbable, totally the wrong word. There isn't a word in the English language that fits here other than impossible. If we look up and it's happening, then how is it impossible? But what it comes down to is, what's your threshold? It's only impossible if the solar eclipse is what they say it is. Two physical bodies with a third variable millions of miles away from each other. However, if something else is going on, something we're not told about, or maybe something they don't even know. If something else is going on, it's not just three massive bodies moving around randomly around the universe. If something else is going on, well, maybe it's the opposite of the word impossible. Maybe once we have full knowledge, we could say, yeah, that's no big deal. There's theoretical impossibility and practical impossibility. We've all heard the theoretical arguments spewed by the college professors. If a monkey could speak words at random, given enough time, that monkey would eventually recite Romeo and Juliet exactly as it was written by the Bacon Society, I mean Shakespeare. Perhaps with an unintended accent, that the monkey would deliver Shakespeare in Romeo and Juliet that would become embarrassing when the monkey proclaims Juliet's "by and by I come." But nevertheless, that monkey would use the same words in the same order, eventually, if given enough time. Even if it takes 100 billion years, that monkey will eventually correctly recite Romeo and Juliet, 7 years ago. No, that's not it. It's two households, both alike in dignity. A monkey getting an entire Shakespeare play correct if just given enough time? No, that's total bullshit. Let's use common sense. Throw the Cambridge statistics professor out the door on his ass. Even though it may initially make sense to people listening to the professor that, yeah, given enough time and just trying for billions of years, the monkey will end up eventually flawlessly delivering the entire play. Common sense screams, no effing way. Because each attempt stands on its own. Each attempt stands on its own. Monkey can't learn or make notes from past mistakes. Two households, both alike in banana. No, banana's not right, monkey, but you're allowed to make a note. Use another word next time instead of banana. No, each attempt stands alone. At 340 million years and 5 days into the attempts, a chimp may say this: two households, both alike in dignity, in fair mayonnaise, where we fillet our banana. But that's as close as he'll probably ever get. He may never do better than that, just uttering words at random. This "a monkey reads Shakespeare" scenario surpasses everyone's threshold for practical impossibility. He'd never be able to do it in any amount of time, no matter what the Oxford professor tells us about what his statistical religion demands. A simpler example of what's your threshold is just a man on a street corner flipping coins. You could stand and watch him for a lifetime, and you'll never see the man flip 50 heads in a row. Just, he doesn't have to eat, he doesn't have to sleep, he doesn't have to do anything else. He just flips a lifetime, and you'd never see him even flip 50 heads in a row. Now, one time you saw 26 heads in a row, but that was after 41 years of watching with no sleep. But that was as close as he ever got. 26 heads in a row after 41 years. The chances of the solar eclipse is like that man not flipping 50 in a row, which he can never do, but 500 heads in a row. To me, the moon fitting exactly and perfectly over the sun in the solar eclipse is impossible if, quote, things are real and rocks are heavy and everything else we've told about this realm is what we've been told. And Carl Sagan described to us the cosmos correctly. When you really consider all the aspects of the eclipse and the impossibilities and the crazy variables and everything in the universe that has to come together, a lot of smart people come to the conclusion that this must be some sort of simulation. And we just used the word like practically impossible. So the chances of the solar eclipse being as it's described to us is like going into a crowded college football stadium and asking everyone you bumped into their name during all 4 quarters of the game. And every single one you asked in that stadium has the exact same last name as you. This is the chances, by the way, of the solar eclipse far exceeds this example. And I'm not talking a common name in the football stadium, like I'm Mr. Smith. Who are you? Oh, I'm Mr. Smith. Mr. Jones. No, like a Mr. Winkleshear. That would present this analogy about the eclipse more aptly. If you, Mr. Winkleshear, met another Mr. Winkleshear, and then over and over and over again everybody in the game you met was Mr. Winkleshear, you'd probably stop thinking it's just a coincidence early in the first quarter. By the second half, you would consider all possibilities, including maybe you're dreaming, or that you're being punked, or whatever. You would even question your own sanity. Nothing would be off the table as impossible, because you would already have determined that 900 people in a row can't possibly be also Mr. Winkleshear. You would look to other explanations, is the point, and you'd move away from life's rules as you know them. But with the eclipse, do we do this? No. Let's just listen to the plastic man on the ABC News, and he'll tell us about reality. Here's my explanation that defies the gods of this material realm, like Carl Sagan and Stephen Hawking and Bagel Boy, Neil deGrasse Tyson, and little perverts like Bill Nye. Here's my explanation. The moon fits perfectly over the sun because whomever crafted this reality made it that way. Like any simulation theory is actually somewhat in line with the Christian viewpoint. God, or the game designer, simply snapped his fingers, or her fingers, or whatever it is, and the eclipse was good. I don't mock that view. For the most part, there's no other interpretation that can explain the impossibility of the solar eclipse, other than it was crafted by whoever crafted this matrix, or crafted by God, or whatever. Sorry, I don't buy into 1 in 400 billion coincidences very often. That's what it basically is if it's just random bodies moving around from the chaos or the entropy of the Big Bang. If you're comfortable with those odds, do you realize there's a much better chance that I actually do own the Brooklyn Bridge and I'm willing to sell it to you for a cheap price? Think about that. I'm not just joking. Think about that for a moment regarding the chances of the eclipse. Regarding the chances all these bodies could come together after the entropy of the Big Bang in the way that they do, like 2 milled quarters, there's a better chance, much better chance, by massive magnitudes, that I, your author, actually own the Brooklyn Bridge than the eclipse being what they say it is. Would you like to make me an offer on the bridge? No? Well, why not? You believe CBS News depiction of the eclipse, and that's 10 to the something more unlikely. If you believe the eclipse is natural, you really should call me about the bridge. As usual, though, I'm labeled a nut. People around us are just fine with the chances that a massive thing like the Superdome could be blocked out and covered up perfectly from our perspective by like a ping pong ball, when 3 bodies are traveling at thousands of miles an hour in different directions. And of course, somebody's screaming at me now that's saying, well, wait a second, per the ecliptic, They are, from our perspective, traveling along the same path. So the eclipse really is not that big of a deal because the ecliptic has put them on the same path. Well then, explain the ecliptic to me and how that came to be. Let's back up and do another 1 in billions chance. Let's look at this one. If the Big Bang is the biggest show of entropy and chaos in the history of the universe, with everything expanding out in separate directions at different speeds, how did it come to be that all planets in the solar system go around the Potter's wheel on the same basically flat plane? That's another 1 in 10 billion coincidence you have to place on top of the eclipse itself. Go find a YouTube video of, quote, our solar system and watch all the cute little planets going around the sun, not only in the same direction, but basically on the same level plane. Why don't they just orbit, I don't know, all over the place at random? How did that happen? They're all going around the same direction, go round and round on the same flat plane? What did they do? They call each other up on the phone like models in New York City planning their outfits? Hey Mars, this is Mercury. Since I'm going first, I'm Mercury. I don't want to be made the fool of by going in a different direction than y'all. This is very embarrassing for me. Don't worry, Mercury. We've all agreed to just do whatever you do. Yes, to me, they called each other. And they agreed upon the direction they're going to go and kind of the plane they're going to go. The planets, they called each other. That actually makes more sense than what Carl Sagan tells us about the nature of heavenly bodies. Sure, if you go to YouTube, you can find videos explaining the ecliptic. Again, they try to explain why all the planets go around the sun in the same direction on the same level plane. I don't care what these videos say. I've watched them. I don't buy it. So the mainstream explanation of the solar eclipse from science, from CNN, from 6th grade, starts off with the 1 in a billion chance that the Earth's gravity could actually capture something as big as the moon, which scientists don't even agree on. Then, in another 1 in billions chance, considering the relative size, distance, trajectory, orbit, shape, rotation, speed, blah, 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 of not just one variable, two, but three, the moon just happens to fit perfectly over the sun as viewed by people lucky enough to be inside its 70-mile cone on the surface of the Earth, the umbra, that little 70-mile round shadow that rolls over the United States that people in their campers just follow. The 70-mile shadow by itself breaks reality down. Have you ever wondered why the moon during a solar eclipse violates everything you know about shadows? Objects cast shadows the same size or larger than themselves. What the moon does is akin to you standing on the 18th green of a golf course, about to make a putt, and looking down and noticing your shadow is a tiny little stick figure off your right big toe. So let me present one final ridiculous summary that presents all the elements. So what are the chances the Earth could capture in its gravity something as large as the moon? Well, I don't know, scientists really can't explain that, so let's just call it 1 in billions. Okay, what are the chances all the planets and the Earth is just going to go around the sun in the same direction? Considering the entropy of the Big Bang, that's got to be 1 in billions. What about them going around in the same direction on basically the same flat level plane, not just all over the place, up, down, around, left, right? I don't know, that's like 1 in billions. And then when the solar eclipse happens, one fits directly over top the other, although you could put 64 million of the one into the other. I don't know, that's 1 in 10 billion. So, what you have overall is at minimum a 1 in a trillion coincidence served with a side of makes no sense. And the side of makes no sense is when you consider that a body 2,500 miles across casts a tiny little shadow on Earth like a basketball, 70-mile umbra. What improbabilities, I don't have a word for it, do people need to be served up before questioning the bullshit that's been passed off to them their entire lives? Just the shadow itself should have everybody scratching their heads. It doesn't. But if you parked your car at the Rose Bowl, and there's the Goodyear blimp, and it's going to pass right overhead in front of the sun, and its shadow, a little tic-tac passing over your sandaled feet, would that get your attention? No, like most people, you wouldn't give a shit. You'd just be eager to get your beer, get into the stadium. Now, for anybody new, if I don't guess exactly what you may be thinking right now and anticipate your objection, I may lose you forever. But think about how intriguing it would be if I actually guessed correctly. Many people are now saying, who the hell does this a-hole think he is? This nobody. He makes videos from his bedroom. He has no credentials on his business card. He is a nobody, a nothing. He's questioning what every smart scientist in every major university presents to their students as fact. How dare he? What a total whack job. Yes, you did not misinterpret what I'm saying, and it absolutely goes against everything learned in astronomy class. But I will demonstrate in countless other areas that what is labeled authority is almost always wrong. What's been blindly accepted for decades about most things is wrong. Remember, those scientists and astronomers can't even tell you how the moon got into Earth's orbit in the first place. So in that long list of impossible coincidences that lead up to, at minimum, 1 in a trillion, they can't even really agree on the first part. I mean, really? Are they experts on the moon if they fail the first test and can't even say how it got there? That's like claiming to have an understanding of the essential amino acids found in milk and having no idea what a cow udder is. I can be like that crazy guy from the movie Contact. These scientists here, yeah, those scientists have mathematical models that predict the movement of heavenly bodies. The models work. They're good predictors. All their math are great predictors of what'll pop up when. And sure, I can't do the complicated calculus. I wouldn't even get a D in that class. But that doesn't mean that they, those scientists, know exactly what the heavenly bodies are. Nobody's been to the moon. That's easily proven by now. If they lied about that, why should I believe a Cassini probe went to Saturn? Or didn't they crash the Cassini probe into Saturn? Why should I don't believe none of it. Even more ludicrous, Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 are still sending back signals from beyond the solar system, billions of miles away. Old twisted metal with its battery pack sending back a signal. How's the signal reaching Earth? How's it finding the receiving dish? When I was at my Italian restaurant the other day and the wind knocked the dish and we lost DirecTV because of the wind. But this thing's finding Earth from billions of miles away. Just stop to think about it. These little satellite spacecrafts, Voyager 1 and 2, have a power supply that we're told is 30 years beyond their expected life. 30 years beyond. I could see maybe getting a few extra months. What do they have in those things, Voyager 1 and 2? Energizers? Still going. What a pleasant surprise for NASA. Not to get just an extra year of life out of the Voyagers, but 30 unexpected years. It's like a guy saying, hey, when I bought this Camry, Toyota said I would get over 35 miles to the gallon. I just passed 10,000 miles, and I haven't filled the tank yet. What a nice surprise. Yes, folks, Voyager is that absurd. Actually, even more so. The person who bought the Camry got the surprise of the unexpected gas mileage under normal driving conditions. The little Voyager that could has to stay operational in an environment that makes Nome, Alaska in January look like Tahiti. And it keeps going and going year after year without a single part breaking, without a single tune-up. If the technology of Voyager existed in 1980, and how amazing it is, surely they could have transferred a little of that Napa know-how to everybody's car by now. I'd like to go a few million miles between oil changes, wouldn't you? And just like Voyager 1 and 2, there's no need for a serviceman and a repairman. Nothing ever breaks. Ever. 60 Minutes showed us just about a year and a half ago. Here's the little terminal at NASA, still receiving the signal, still going. Oh, Matt, what are you saying? I don't get it. What are you saying, Mr. Author? I'm saying the whole Voyager story is fake. Of course. Star Trek's movie and the Voyager is more real to me. Beyond the power supply, how does a faint little signal get beamed in the right direction to find a tiny little Earth billions of miles away? Earth is big, but from the perspective of past Pluto, where the Voyagers have been for years, the Earth is like the size of a tiny microbe on the end of a tic-tac. Having the signal reach Houston and NASA's receiving dish there is like a drunken sniper with an old rifle being able to hit a cotton ball being dragged behind a truck 5 miles away in the dark. Let's just say in the 1 in a million chance Voyager, by itself, just Voyager can get it right and point the transmission signal in the right direction, and the weak signal actually finds Earth. Let's just assume they can do that. What happens when that weak little signal finds Earth? Amidst the massive electromagnetic noise that this planet produces, like Wi-Fi, cellular, 5G cancer rays, DirecTV, CB, radio, and all the other stuff, combined with the massive background noise of the universe itself, how could NASA distinguish and receive the tiny little signal?
Well, Matt, it's on a different frequency, or it's a band of the FM spectrum that they don't let you listen to rap music on, or whatever.
So the signal sent using the power of about 8D batteries at negative 200 degrees Fahrenheit, it's a weak signal to begin with. It's not degraded or spread thin over its billion-mile journey back to Earth. Yeah, cell phones were regularly dropping calls up till about 10 years ago, and the cell tower that you're being dropped was just a few miles from your phone. It wasn't 1.5 billion miles away. When I drive down to the Jersey beaches, I lose the Philadelphia radio stations halfway down the Atlantic City Expressway. Why can't the technology that lets Voyager communicate a billion miles with NASA, why can't they give that to WIP talk radio so I can hear my Eagles talk all the way down in Ocean City? Look, it's a massive joke. NASA would have a better chance of receiving Casey Kasem's Top 40 countdown with a signal from 1982 being sent back to Houston after bouncing off the rings of Saturn than receiving these Voyager signals. Very simply, we've been lied to, and about everything. Stop playing mind games with yourself and finally decide to see it. Now there's one more piece of evidence in a totally different direction that supports my theory that the solar eclipse is something else. Something not even close to what they tell us it is. Observe how people react when they view the eclipse from inside the umbra. Now, if you weren't inside the umbra, there's a ton of YouTube videos. Observe how people react. They go crazy with wonder. It's the most exciting thing they've ever seen. All the atheists stand up and shout endless, "Oh my gods, oh my gods," like they did when the towers fell. What did everybody say? All the atheists say as soon as the towers fell. Everybody just immediately, instinctively went to, "Oh my God, oh my God." Isn't that interesting? But back to the eclipse. Pictures of people getting emotional and crying and just in awe with wonder. Now, that says something to me. Unconsciously, they know it's something beyond what the plastic anchorman is telling them. It's symbolism that represents far more than just a rock or something that resembles a cat litter box passing in front of the sun. Something inside those people that were crying and going crazy standing in the umbra tells them there's something else going on. It's a glimpse into the very fabric of reality itself. People's inner knowing, or their third eye, their heart, their inner tuning force sense it with the eclipse. That's why they react the way they do. The idiot ego mind then pushes the emotion aside and then remembers what Scott Pelley said on TV and interprets their own behavior as just curious wonder, and it's just a cat litter box passing in front of the sun. It's no big deal. The moment the umbra passes away, a call will be made for a pizza delivery. Unfortunately, most people only manifest their inner knowing a few times in their life, and when it comes, they don't even realize what's happening.